One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
That is a dramatic way to start the show. Alex, what's that called?
This is called Cinematic War Music by Desi Free Music. I love this.
Cinematic War. Let it play just a little bit. It must be because of the tension that's in the studio tonight. Before we went live on air, Gabby and Mert were at it. There was almost a smackdown. Gabby, didn't he threaten to smack you or throw you down? What was the exact threat?
He said he was going to devastate me in arm wrestling.
Oh, my goodness. Mert, defend your honor or lack thereof.
Well, listen, I'm deciding if I'm going to be a gentleman and let her win, or I'm just going to just wipe her out like I probably
She's
should.
a tough cookie, man.
I really am, though.
Oh,
I'm a
God.
lot tougher than I look. It would be gentlemanly to just be real about it. You don't have to let me win.
We're fighting before the show has even started. Let's have a little order, please. But great music, Alex, great music. I thought we should start with a look at the whole John Bolton controversy. Now, Bolton, he's an American attorney, diplomat, Republican consultant, and a political commentator. Served as the 25th United States ambassador to the UN from 2005 to 2006, and as the 26th United States National Security Advisor from 2018 to 2019. And interestingly enough, he now finds himself at the center of a legal and political firestorm, which is why we're going to be talking about him. He was recently indicted, Mert, on 18, that's 1-8, federal counts for mishandling classified information. So Bolton has descended from National Security Advisor to criminal defendant, and it shines a mirror on the retaliatory politics that have come to define the Trump era. Did you want to say something, Mert, or did I?
No, I was just laughing because you said the key word federal charges, but keep going because I'm going to wait till you come in.
You were laughing because the guy was indicted? Alex,
on federal charges.
What's going on with this today? What is going on? Look, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about his, Bolton's rise, his break with Donald Trump, and the controversy that now threatens to put him in the clinker. Now, do you know John Bolton, Mert? Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, I used to watch him on Red Eye on Greg Gutfeld's show on Fox, so I'm very familiar with him. I didn't know he was this serious of a guy, because he was always kind of joking around, but I am familiar with him.
Yeah, he was born in Baltimore, just a little background, in 1948, graduated from Yale. He got degrees in political science and law. He became a fixture in conservative legal circles and served during the Reagan administration, so he goes back. Now, his worldview was shaped by the Cold War, and he believes that diplomacy should be backed by force. Now, see, the judges agree. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Otherwise, it's just meaningless.
Are the judges
words.
warhawks then, Lucas? Or?
Well, I think that words are words. If you're not willing to act on words, it's just nothing but a threat, then you lose credibility. I mean, Mert, you described yourself as a bully before we started. I mean, isn't it important you act on your words? Otherwise, you lose all credibility, no?
Well, that is definitely true, but that doesn't. You don't have to be a bully to live like that. Basically, if you're an upstanding individual and you make a promise or you say something will happen if another person or an entity does something, if they test and push your limits and you fail to react and move in the way that you said you were, then that makes you look weak. So you should always mean what you say and say what you mean. So that's my stance on that. It doesn't necessarily make you a bully acting that way, however.
Well, I think say what you do what you say, right? Throughout his career, right. Bolton championed regime change. He wanted change in Iran and North Korea, and supported the Iraq War. Critics labeled him a warmonger. His supporters saw him as a defender of U.S. interests. Now, in 2018, Mert, President Trump, during his first term, appointed Bolton as National Security Advisor. And this is where it starts to get juicy. At the time, Trump was not into wars, okay, if you recall. So their relationship was not very easy because Bolton pushed for hardline stance on Iran, advocated for military action in Venezuela, and he opposed Trump's diplomatic overtures to North Korea. Trump, meanwhile, was frustrated with that hawkishness, and in September 2019, he fired Bolton. See, this is where we're going, Bert, suggesting that he strongly disagreed with many of his suggestions. Bolton later claimed he had resigned. They can't even get straight whether he was fired or resigned. But in any event, the split wasn't friendly. It was downright nasty, and that set the stage for a public feud that would escalate over the next several years. And Mert, of course, this was where it got real good. The guy, in June of 2020, came out with a tell-all book, and it was called The Room Where It Happened. This is Bolton's book, and it offered a scathing account of Trump's presidency by saying that Trump prioritized personal gain over national interest, and he painted a White House of incompetence. So Bolton alleged that Trump had sought Chinese President Xi's help in winning re-election and expressed willingness to stop criminal investigations to curry favor with authoritarian leaders. The book detailed internal debates over Iran, Ukraine, North Korea. Now here, ready, Mert? Here are some of the most striking claims and quotes from Bolton's book. Of course, the point is, Trump didn't appreciate all this. Here we go, ready? Trump is Trump. That's the quote. Bolton wrote that Trump relied on instinct, personal relationships, and showmanship to run the executive branch, neglecting analysis, planning, and intellectual discipline. Yeah, that wasn't nice. He described Trump's decision-making as, I quote, a random walk that never stops, like a random walk meets Groundhog Day. Now that wasn't nice either. Bolton also said in an interview, get ready for this, quote, I don't think he's really competent to be president. Ooh, that had to hurt. Oh, come on, Mert. And Bolton claimed that Trump couldn't distinguish between personal interests and national interests, especially when it came to foreign affairs. He criticized Trump's summit with Kim Jong-un, the North Korea guy, saying that it was motivated because Trump wanted photo ops rather than any substance. He doesn't know when to quit, Mert. And then Trump allegedly asked Xi for help, as I said before, to help win re-election by having China buy more agricultural products. I don't know what's wrong with promoting American industry, but you see how he didn't ingratiate himself with his former boss, Mert. Do you see where this is coming from?
Are you done? I'm trying to. Are you asking me now, or you still got some more?
Well,
stuff
I got
to go?
more, but
how much more do you possibly have?
Well, you want to get for a good one? No, this is a good one. Ready for this? He said Trump rarely read much and needed briefings boiled down to bullet points or graphics to hold his attention.
Well, who wants to read and do all that stuff? That's for the nerds
pictures.
to do.
So
let the nerds let the nerds read. Reading is overrated. Let the nerds read. I know how to read. Everybody knows how to read at this point. I don't want to have to sort through all those documents. Somebody read this nonsense and tell me what's in it. I don't need to actually sit there and read it.
So you agree with that, Trump? Just give me the bottom line. But
I think it was there's people out there who love to. There's people out there who love to read, and realistically,
I read.
You can put this stuff into Chat GPT, and it'll give you a nice little summary, so you don't even have to read it. So, reading is overrated.
No, reading is fundamental.
Do your job, Bolton. Bolton, do your job.
He's basically calling Trump stupid. If you want to paraphrase all this, it's stupid, narcissist, just concerned about photo ops and really isn't concerned about America. He's more concerned about his personal interests.
Well, I'd say if Bolton thinks he's stupid, I'd say, why don't you go run for president and show us how smart you are? Because being smart, it doesn't make you cool. It doesn't give you an advantage. It just makes you good at reciting facts because you can remember them. That's what being smart is. But when you're street smart and you're a people person and you know how to navigate systems of people, that's what's most important. Navigating systems of people, knowing how to climb those systems. That's what Trump is good at. Now, I'm not a Trump supporter, but a guy like Bolton, I'm not going to, downplay his career because he's done some of that. But to call a president stupid or to imply that he's stupid, incompetent.
Yeah, I mean, look, basically, Mert, he's spitting in Trump's face.
But before you go, let me address, because you're about to go way past what you brought up earlier about the charges and all that stuff, because I want to get this out. These are all federal charges, correct? There's nothing of a state.
Federal charges, federal grand jury,
and that is very
counts,
important. That's very
counts.
Important.
Yes,
because we just seen the Trump administration pardon somebody for doing something very terrible. What's his name? Mr. Santos. What's his first name?
Identity fraud.
George?
Santos, yeah.
Yeah, George Santos. He was just pardoned.
Congressman, yeah.
So with these federal charges, the reason why I laughed is because when I hear federal charges, that lets me know if somebody is really on your side, all of your sins could be forgiven. These are all federal charges. Trump could just say, you know what, he was doing it on behalf of the country. It was in our best interest. Get rid of all that nonsense. He's a good man. I'm going to clear his name. But because he made a political enemy out of Trump, and I would do the same thing if I was Trump, so I'm not even saying what he's doing is bad, because you come after me after I give you one of your biggest opportunities, one of your biggest shots, I'm going to use the legal system. I'm not going to break the law. I'm going to use the legal system to go after you. So it makes sense what Trump is doing. Bolton, if you're going to come and try to sully my name and make it more difficult for me to become president once again, because he was saying all this stuff while he was trying to become president once again. He didn't wait till he was completely done. He done this at a very inconvenient time. I am going to go after you because I'm the president now. You probably thought Kamala was going to win. You probably thought I wasn't going to get back in office. But it happened. And now look at you, Bolton. Well, you should have learned your lesson.
Well,
he should have learned his lesson because of how Trump deals with other people. He doesn't do well when people go against him.
Well, but you know what? Bolton was basically asking for it. But look, the charges include 8 counts of unlawful transmission of national defense information, 10 counts of unlawful retention of classified materials. There was stuff that were marked top secret and sensitive that were found in his possession. And here's the irony, Mert. Ready for this? When Trump... And Alex, get ready to chime in. When Trump was accused of having top secret materials at Mar-a-Lago, Bolton was among the loudest voices calling for Trump to go to jail for endangering national security. How's that for irony?
Projection much? I mean, really?
Yeah. And by the way, they found like 1,000 pages of docs that Bolton had. And a lot of the pundits, Mert, are saying what Bolton had in his possession was quite serious. For example, David D'Amato, writing for The Hill, argued that Bolton's case is far more serious and complex than any other recent prosecutions, noting that it involves intentional dissemination of some of the most sensitive possible U.S. government information. D'Amato stressed, that Bolton's actions could have very directly endangered Americans. So shame.
You mean like Mr. Hedgeth? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm African American, so those type of names are difficult for me. But what's his name? Pete Hedgeth or whatever his name is.
Buttigieg.
No, Pete Hegseth of the War Department.
Oh, the War Department guy. That was a little
you
different.
remember his whole.
That was
you remember his whole little fiasco.
That's a little different.
Yeah, that's very. You're very gifted. I see what you did there. It's different, huh? It's different.
It is different because
transmit war plans.
Come on, Alex. What did they do? The guy adds a reporter to the chat. The chain, and of course they talked about stuff maybe that they shouldn't have shared with certain people that were on that chain. I get it.
It sounds like a federal offense to me.
But let's stay. We'll talk about that on another show. Let's stay focused on Bolton and the hypocrisy of Bolton. You know, it's funny. You spit in someone's face. You say they should go to jail, and then you're guilty of even worse crime than what the guy you're spitting in the face. This is weird. This kind of hypocrisy, I think, is what drives people mad, Mert. Shut up, okay?
But you know what?
Shut up.
I'll say this Bolton, he must have some kind of integrity, so I'm going to give him a compliment because...
Integrity? He stole 1,000 pages, allegedly... 1,000 pages of confidential documents.
I don't know what you're talking about. You could be making all that up. You said allegedly, so that doesn't mean it's a fact.
Why don't you put it in the chat box and see? Come on.
Who knows what's true and what's just being reported to try to slander the man's name. But I'm going to say this. He must have some kind of integrity because he probably could anticipate what was going to come down the pike. He knew if he went against Trump that he was going to be a target, and to do that and take that risk and do it anyway, he must have some type of integrity for speaking out against what he felt was injustices and somebody who was not, capable of doing their job. So I'm actually going to give him props for doing that because it doesn't take a fool.
Alex, give Mert a song. People living
that wasn't in the script.
People living in glass houses, Mert, shouldn't throw stones. Look, whether he's vindicated or convicted, the case will shape how history remembers him and how future administrations handle the delicate balance between national security and political loyalty. In the end, the story is not just about one man's fall. It's about the cost of dissent and the risks of power and the enduring struggle to separate justice from politics. Closer to home, we'd like to welcome you, one and all, to episode 70 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. We're now in our second year. 70, Mert. Would you believe it? Let's hear another amen, studio audience. Thank you.
You guys picked a great night because another breaking news story. The Senate has agreed on a deal to end the shutdown. See, Mert was right to pick this night.
Let's have another amen. Amen. Yeah, that shutdown was so ridiculous. But that's another show. My friends, we have great guests in store for you today. But before we get to them, we want to remind you our goal is to offer, open and candid conversation about the latest news and the developments of the day. So be forewarned, this show ain't for the faint of heart. Now, with that noted, you've already heard from my esteemed colleague, Mert Roberts. Everyone here at the studio calls him affectionately the Mertonator. He's the one and only man of the people. And the guy engineering and producing the show is none other than Alex Garrett. He's got a 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. And with us in the studio is Princess Gabby Pisani. She is loyalty at AM 970. Gabby, you there?
Yes, I am.
We love you and thank you for joining us. When we come back from the commercial break, Chief Rondo Arredondo, he's got a book, Securing Justice for the Murder of George Floyd. That's coming right after the break. So stay tuned. We've got more truth, more grit, more justice coming up after this.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate. MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and an overstock deal you won't find anywhere else. My slippers only $39.98. Any color, any style. Regular $149.98. Now only $39.98. That's $110 savings. Once they're gone for good. My towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set. Regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And for the first time and only time ever, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you will receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-651-0798 and use the promo code Joe P. Use your promo code for the best offers ever. Quantities are extremely limited, so order now. Tropical Storm Melissa formed over the central Caribbean Sea and grew into a Category 5 hurricane, unleashing torrential rain and causing catastrophic flooding with a devastating impact on Jamaica and parts of Haiti. There was also extensive damage to infrastructure, power, and communication outages. In the Dominican Republic, the storm damaged nearly 200 homes and knocked out water supply systems, affecting more than 500,000 customers. Food for the Poor has 1,500 food packages and 500 hygiene packages prepared for distribution to those affected by Hurricane Melissa. A $100 one-time gift provides hurricane relief items for children and families. Your gift provides families with immediate access to relief and help to recover in the aftermath of this disaster. Click the red Help Jamaica banner at am970theanswer.com or call 855-907-4673, 855-907-HOPE.
You don't have to travel to Manhattan for high-quality care because the future of healthcare is right here in Yonkers at St. Joseph's Medical Center. Home to some of the region's most skilled physicians and surgeons, St. Joseph's combines first-class compassionate personal care with the latest in advanced imaging and robotic-assisted surgery technology that delivers greater accuracy, faster recovery, and better outcomes. And when life's unexpected moments happen, their new fast-track area in the emergency department is designed for non-life-threatening emergencies, so their caring team can get you in and out quickly without ever sacrificing quality. At St. Joseph's, they're redefining what exceptional healthcare looks like right here at home. At St. Joseph's Medical Center in Yonkers, excellence is in the details. St. Joseph's Medical Center, the future of healthcare in Yonkers, is here.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
What is the name of that one, Alex?
All right, we've got Justice by Melody.
Justice. Fitting indeed. Our next guest, Chief Medaria, Rondo Arredondo is the former Minneapolis police chief whose leadership during the George Floyd crisis reshaped the national conversation on race, justice, and policing. His new memoir, Chief Rondo, Securing Justice for the Murder of George Floyd, offers a powerful first-hand account of those historic events. Medaria Arredondo, known widely as Rondo, made history as the first black police chief of Minneapolis. Arredondo became a chief in 2017, thrust into the national spotlight May of 2020 when George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police officers. As protests erupted, Rondo took a firm stance, condemning the officers involved and initiating sweeping changes. Published in 2025 by Diversion Books, his memoir chronicles the chief's personal and professional journey from growing up as a black man to leading its police department, Minneapolis' police department, to one of the most consequential civil rights reckonings in modern history. You could find his book at Simon & Schuster's official page or your favorite booksellers like Amazon. All hail to the chief. Welcome to the program, Chief Rondo.
Thank you so very much for the warm welcome introduction, and also just for the kind invitation. I know that I had such a wonderful time with you and your listeners the last time I was on, and to your word, you said that we would reconnect after I think you guys had sort of a major election out there. I know we certainly did here back in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, but no, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming back on. It is an honor. Chief, any reaction to, I know Mert wants to say hello, but any reaction to the election in New York? I think it's no surprise that Comrade, the Democratic Socialist Mamdani, won the election over 1 million votes, an astronomical number of votes. So the people have spoken. But my concern, and what I wanted to ask you about policing and his thoughts and approaches about policing, using social workers as the front line, and particularly given your expertise with George Floyd, do you think that's the way to go?
Well, so what I will tell you is, so we were watching, certainly here in Minneapolis, we were certainly watching, as sure as a lot of the country was, in terms of what was going to happen there in New York, and so was not a surprise based on certainly the polling that was coming in and everything leading up to eventually, which got down to your three candidates in New York City. The other reason why we were certainly watching it is because in Minneapolis, the number one sort of contender or candidate against the incumbent mayor here in Minneapolis is a gentleman by the name of Omar Fateh, who also is aligned with the DSA. And so we were watching that. Matter of fact, many national outlets were making some comparisons. The big difference, though, Lucas and Mert, with our candidate, that Omar Fateh, that was also aligned with DSA, he was an unknown going against a two-term incumbent in Mayor Fry. The people of Minneapolis, and it was done during the polling prior to the election, public safety and economic development were the two drivers, but public safety overall was what was really the people of Minneapolis. Lucas and Mert wanted to make sure that above everything else, that they felt safe, that their homes were safe, that their going to work was safe, and they wanted that consistency and stability, and they were not willing to risk going with an unknown. Obviously, interesting in New York City, you certainly had a couple of folks that were known, obviously, and Cuomo, but Mamdani was not. He was an unknown, but for whatever reason, your city went that way. Minneapolis said, above all else, public safety is the number one driver that's getting us out to the polls. It was a high turnout in Minneapolis, and so I just think that in terms of having other resources to help respond to New York residents, other social service apparatuses is okay. At the end of the day, certainly Minneapolis they want to see men and women in uniform, law enforcement, being there to help drive down crime.
So, Chief, let me ask you a question. Do you think that this push to have other ways of dealing with, risky individuals, maybe you might consider them criminals, you might consider these people who just need intervention in other ways, and that might prevent them from becoming criminals. What are your thoughts on that? Because I want to pin you down so you can address that specifically, because I think that having other people, peace officers, whatever you want to call them, you can get into that later, but having people who address mental issues and stuff like that outside of the officers, I think that can free people up, especially if you're willing to pay the tax increases and you're as a community, you're willing to risk your money, your paycheck to make it happen, because you're going to have to pay these other people. But what are your thoughts on bringing in specialists to handle some of these individuals instead of putting all the burden on police officers?
Mert, that's a great question. I think it has to be a very layered approach. But I'll say a couple of things. So one is, if you're dealing with jurisdictions that do not, first and foremost, have enough police officers, yes, that is going to be a resource that you're just cities are going to have to try to deal with. If we don't have enough men and women when that 911 calls in to respond to them, yes, you're going to have some other alternatives. I also think that mental health, if we look at it, whether it's in New York City, Minneapolis, LA, or you name it, mental health is oftentimes connected with a lot of these types of 911 calls. And so having a system where you can get social workers out there. We have something in place in Minneapolis called co-responder teams, which puts a plain clothes or a soft clothes uniform officer with a social worker. And the number one goal is to keep those who are struggling with mental health issues in their homes. And so they get to know these. It's wraparound services. They're able to do casework management on time, and it does free up those district cruisers from having to take time out of those 911 calls to do that. But again, it's a layered approach. What you don't want to have happen is you don't want to shift calls in which it should be a uniformed officer responding, calls in which that it could jeopardize the safety of the caller as well as the social worker. You want to be very cognizant of that and make sure that you're doing it very smartly. But yes, Mert, to your point, yes, if it's someone who's struggling with mental health issues, is not a threat to themselves or others, then yes, a New York response of a social worker.
Before you keep going, let me ask you this: Does a cop? Have you noticed if a cop is around and somebody is prone to have mental issues, will the presence of a cop stop that? I'm asking that because I want to make a distinction between a cop being around will stop criminals from doing stuff out in the open, but if somebody has mental health issues, would a cop necessarily be able to stop that person? Do you get what I'm asking?
I get what you're asking, but Mert, I also got to say it's nuanced. So if someone is at a store and there's a person speaking up into the ceiling, believing that there's some sort of aliens that are talking to them, the first call may be to an officer, and most officers, whether it's in NYPD or in Minneapolis, have some level of crisis response training. So, and sometimes that uniformed officer can help to de-escalate the situation. Doesn't necessarily mean just having that uniformed officer there means that person is going to go to jail. That officer with their training may be able to identify right away, hey, send a paramedic rig out here. this person needs to go to a behavioral crisis
We
team.
have to go to a commercial break. Hold your thought,
yes.
but have no fear. Chief Rondo will be rejoining us after these quick commercial messages. And if you thought this segment was great, just wait. Chief Rondo's story isn't done yet. Stay tuned. Next chapter might just burn your bookshelf.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate. Hey, it's Joe Piscopo. We just spoke to our friend Alex Kinsella over at Route 22 Toyota in Hillside, New Jersey. Alex tells us they're not waiting till the end of the month, and neither should you, because their Black Friday savings event is going on right now. They're stuffed with hundreds of Toyota's best-selling SUV, the Toyota RAV4, so they've drastically reduced every RAV4 in stock, including the RAV4 LE all-wheel drive, which you can lease one today for just $149 a month. Route 22 Toyota can save you even more with available zero-down leases or 0% APR financing. And if you're looking for a great pre-owned ride, check out their huge selection of pre-owned and Toyota-certified used vehicles, all priced to move. Browse and shop at Route22Toyota.com. Looking to sell or trade your current vehicle? Call Route 22 Toyota at 973-705-8905 for a risk-free appraisal during their Black Friday savings event going on now. And remember, tell them Joe Piscopo sent you.
Founded in 1945 by Edward J. Petrillo, Yonkers Contracting Company is one of the few construction firms that has continuously operated for 80 years. Currently under the leadership of Carl E. Petrillo, the company has diversified from its roots as a highway contractor to encompass a diverse range of projects, including bridges, paving, rail and transit, water and wastewater, energy and environmental work, site work, and foundations. This includes numerous historic and iconic structures. Among these are New York Penn Station, Grand Central Terminal, and the landmark Brooklyn Bridge. Look over all their projects at YonkersContractingCO.com and follow them on social media for more project updates and news. Carl Petrillo and Yonkers Contracting are supporters of Yonkers Partners in Education, a nonprofit organization that partners with students to ensure they are ready for, enroll in, and complete college. YPI works with more than 2,000 students across Yonkers, providing all aspects of the transition from high school to college success. Visit ypi.org.
Nowadays, when a lot of food is good and expensive, Michael's of Brooklyn is something that's just plain good. And if you want the best homemade Italian food, then you must get to Michael's of Brooklyn, Avenue R off Nostrand Avenue. Say hello to Fred and tell him Kevin McCullough sent you here to eat fantastic fresh pasta. And if you can't get to Michael's of Brooklyn, then how about joining the Sauce of the Month Club? You get a different jar of Michael's of Brooklyn pasta sauce and homemade pasta and biscotti each month for 6 months. Each month receive exquisite sauces ranging from arrabbiata to puttanesca and, of course, the fresh marinara. They're family-owned and operated, and I can attest to the authenticity of every one of their recipes. That's why it's stacked in my pantry. Everything is made completely from scratch. Even the sauce they sell in the grocery stores nationwide. They make it right there at Michael's of Brooklyn. So visit michaelsofbrooklyn.com and join the Sauce of the Month Club. That's michaelsofbrooklyn.com or call 718-998-7851. Michael's of Brooklyn, serving the community since 1964.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back. We've been speaking with Medaria Arredondo, affectionately known as Chief Rondo, author of Chief Rondo, Securing Justice for the Murder of George Floyd. And if you just tuned in, you missed a whirlwind. But no worries, we're just getting started and there's more to come. For more about the Chief and his book, visit Simon & Schuster's page or check out any bookseller like Amazon. You'll find the great book there. We'll have links posted on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Now, Chief, I had to interrupt you because we had a hard commercial break, but you were talking about a guy in the store who was looking up at the ceiling, talking to his alien friends, and asked him to be beamed up, and you were talking about the response to that, and then I interrupted you. Did you want to finish your thought?
Yeah, no, Lucas, I was just going to say to Mert that, there are going to be some calls where the caller is not going to either have the time or feel comfortable enough trying to make a diagnosis right there on the spot. So their first call is going to be to 911, and more than likely it's going to be a uniformed officer to respond. I think, Mert, that any agency, police agency, that can have a combination of obviously having enough uniformed officers to respond to those calls where they're needed, and also alternative non-sworn segments, civilians who can handle some of those mental health calls. I think that's great. I just think that we also have to keep in mind there's over 18,000 police agencies across the country. Not all of them are going to have the resources to have a separate non-sworn unit to respond to those. And so for those that don't have that luxury, making sure that their men and women who are law enforcement officers are thoroughly trained in crisis intervention training, de-escalation. I think that having that layered approach is what's going to matter most.
So,
Amen.
Chief, do you think? Chief, do you think? Let's do this, Chief. Do you think, because you wrote the book about George Floyd, do you think if there would have been some kind of intervention beforehand with a peace officer, some kind of mental health expert, do you think that it might not necessarily have helped smooth things over with Mr. Floyd, because he might have still reacted how he reacted, but that officer, maybe it would have affected how the officer acted in that situation? Do you think that could be a factor in this, forcing officers to say, I'm not surrounded with people in the uniform, that code of the blue wall or the blue shield, whatever one it is. So I have to actually respect this other entity that is not physically as powerful, but might have some influence to, throw their weight around in a court of law. So I have to monitor what I'm doing. So if there would have been somebody in that, in that situation, do you think that whole, which just turned the United States upside down, do you think that would have been avoided?
Mert, that's a great question. But the first ambassador to how that call is going to be dispatched is through how that's taken in by the dispatcher. In Mr. Floyd's situation, it came in as a counterfeit call, which is a criminal call by nature. So there would not have been, under their first initial call, Mert, there would not have been, there was nothing saying that this person is acting in a way that looks like to appear to be a mental health issue or mental crisis issue. Those initial officers responding to what would have been reported through 911 as a criminal call and response. So that's
Before you keep going, I'm glad that you said that, because, I think a lot of time we're lazy with what we expect these processes to be able to do. Because if it's a criminal complaint, there's no reason to have a mental health expert in that situation. So that's very key that you said that. Continue.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that.
I think that, no, Mert, that's a great question. And I think for whether it's an NYPD or certainly whether it's in cities across the country, those 911 callers are going to be the first really folks who triage what should be the appropriate response. And so it's not just a matter of just dispatching social workers. It's what's going to be critical is what is the information they're receiving. Because listen, that call can change quickly to the person's at the store talking up into the ceilings to their alien friend, but by the way, they're waving a knife. So, Mert,
Right.
that even if we realize there's a mental health issue, you're not going to send a non-armed civilian into that call, right? You could have them on standby, but so that those 911 call takers are critical in terms of assessing what that appropriate response should be.
So the front lines, this is going to be interesting. Training, sensitizing. I guess this can be easily done if someone doesn't have a weapon. Does the person have a weapon? Are you in danger? Is anyone else? But Chief, this is going to turn into an interrogation like 100 questions. I thought in the old days, and I'm sorry if I'm dating myself, Chief, and please feel free to correct me. You called 911, and they said, what's the emergency? And basically it was just a couple of questions, and they sent, officers. Now it seems to me like this is going to be encumbered with a series of questions. Is that appropriate during the course of an emergency? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And here's where, Lucas, I think that we've, the number one goal for any law enforcement agency in the country is the preservation of life. So when the initial information comes in, and sadly we have too many of these examples. We had one here in Minneapolis not that long ago with the Annunciation school shooting. But you can imagine those first call takers when someone is whispering over the phone, "Get police here, someone's shooting into a school." Listen, they have a protocol. They know which cruisers are going to get dispatched. That's going to elevate to a active shooter situation. So there's going to be certain pieces of information that are going to immediately go to what type of response that is. To your point, yes, call takers want to get 911 dispatchers want to get as much information as they can. It may seem frustrating to the individual on the other line, but they're trying to make sure they're getting the most appropriate responses possible. Yes, you're not dating yourself, Lucas. The days of just, hey, tell me where you're at, what's the situation, and we'll get a cruiser out there. Yes, we've evolved from that, but we're trying to make sure. And by the way, more information is also helpful for those officers that are responding. We need to know what they're going into, what situations they're going to be going into, and is also for the community in a whole. So yes, there's been trade-offs. Yes, does it mean there's more time that you're going to probably be on the call with the dispatcher? But at the end of the day, they're trying to make sure that the situation is resolved in as safely as possible, and that you get the best response.
Hey, Chief, our producer, Alex Garrett, has been patiently waiting. He's a big fan, Chief. So go ahead, Alex. Say hello to the Chief.
Chief, awesome having you tonight as always. We're talking about
Good to hear your voice, Alex.
The social worker part, but I want to talk about the disbanding part. When New Yorkers hear that Mamdani wants to disband units, I mean, you kind of underwent those threats in Minnesota. Can the city council step in and stop that? I mean, can they stop them from disbanding units here?
Well, I will tell you real time, Alex, what happened here in Minneapolis the previous election. For the first time in the city of Minneapolis, a ballot referendum was put on for basically to disband the Minneapolis Police Department. Communities overwhelmingly came out and voted against that. And matter of fact, Alex, communities that had a history of grievances, documented grievances and complaints with the Minneapolis Police Department, came out and voted against that. And the reason why, Alex, is they said two things can be true at once. We can have a police department that needs reform, that needs to be improved, but we still need police. And I will tell you that this recent mayoral election here in Minneapolis, public safety was number one on the ballot. And people said at the end of the day, we don't need less police, we need more police. We need for them to do the job right, but we need more police. So it will be interesting to see. I'm certainly aware of previous comments that Mayor-elect Mamdani has said about NYPD, but I certainly will tell you here in Minneapolis, that has been walked back. Those sentiments have been walked back here in Minneapolis about disbanding the police and defunding the police. That is not aged well here.
And one last thing,
right.
For Commissioner Tisch, she's hearing all of this. What's your advice to her? Because you've led a department. Talk about your advice to her as she leads into this next phase of New York, it feels like.
I think it's going to be very important. Obviously, the commissioner is going to have a strong relationship with the mayor. I think it's important for them. Obviously, she serves at the pleasure of the mayor. I think it's going to be important for her to talk about her leadership style. How best she will work with the mayor's office, what she sees as the strengths of NYPD in terms of providing that public safety to all New York residents. And I think it's going to be important for him. Obviously, he's publicly, at least from my vantage point, he's tried to either clarify statements he's made in the past regarding NYPD. I think all of us should have some grace in terms of learning in time. And I think it's going to be critically important that they're on the same page. I think that I will say here from Minneapolis, as soon as Minneapolis residents or New York City residents, if they see that there's a bit of daylight between the commish and the mayor, that can be problematic. And so I think, not that they're always going to agree, but I think that moving forward, that both of them seem unified in their approach to keeping New York City residents safe. I think that's a good way to at least start out.
All right, Chief, I want to ask you one final question, and this is going to put you on the spot.
Yes, go ahead.
This is going to put you on the spot, so you're going to have to,
okay. Mert, I'm used to being on the spot.
All right,
He's the Murdinator.
Do you think by invoking the name George Floyd with this new book that you could be stoking civil unrest? Do you think it's risky what you're doing, trying to put this name back into the atmosphere? Because for the most part, people have moved on. Or do you think it's necessary to do that, and you're willing to take that risk?
Great question, and so no, I don't think it's stoking anything. I mean, all of us who were here back in the summer, May 20 of 2020, we know what occurred. All of us have, for the most part, have seen the video. The book certainly it talks about the events of that day. However, it's much more fuller than just that one event. The book's filled with a lot of history. The book, quite frankly, is a book of hope and how we can move forward and how we can move from tragedy to healing and recovery and moving forward. I will also just say, as I mentioned earlier, at one point in time, that summer of 2020, with the name George Floyd that was associated with, my department was one of the most hated departments on the planet. But I will tell you, the year after that, I talked about it earlier, that ballot referendum, some of the same people that had valid disagreements against our police department, they came out in voting numbers we had never seen, particularly in the African-American community, and said those two things can be true at once. Yes, this police department we feel needs reform, but yes, we still need a police department. So that is how I look at it. I don't think it's invoking. I think if it's anything, we want to learn from the past and see how we can get better moving forward.
And here, Chief, let's hope we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Unfortunately, Chief, we've run out of time. Your segments always fly by, Chief. For more about
it's been wonderful being with you, the team. You, Lucas, Mert, Alex, my man. It is a pleasure. I'm so glad that you're getting your message out to the folks out there, and I just a big cheerleader and supporter of you.
It was an honor, absolute honor, Chief. For more about Chief Rondeau and his book, check out Chief Rondeau, Securing Justice for the Murder of George Floyd. Visit Simon & Schuster's website. Check out your favorite bookseller or retailer. It's on Amazon. Look for Chief Rondeau. We'll have links on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Thanks again, Chief. Bless you.
Thank you. Bless you guys.
We'll be joined by Jane Eisner. She's a seasoned journalist and author of a new biography, Carole King, She Made the Earth Move, which dives into the life and legacy of America's most iconic songwriter. So stay tuned. We got a lot more controversy, maybe some answers await. Don't touch that dial unless it's a piano key and you're Carole King. We'll be back.
The preceding hour of programming, sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.